Call the meeting of Enfield Inland Wetlands Watercourse Agency Tuesday, September 16th, 2014 at 7 o'clock. Our regular meeting. Call to order. Elections of officers tonight. A motion on the table to table that to our next meeting
I'll second that motion to table it to the next meeting.
of,
Somebody has
Thought you said motion.
you was first and then Liz or Jane.
oh,
I thought you were first. I'll make a motion to table the election of officers to the next meeting.
Second.
all right. Roll call
Joseph Albert,
here.
Donna Corbin-Sabinski, Jill Kravitz here, Jane Smith.
Here.
Elizabeth Davis.
Here.
Joseph Perello, and Frank Limo. Thank you.
Fire evacuation procedures. In case of a fire, there are two ways to exit a chamber: to my left, through the council chambers doors, down, turn left, and walk down the flight of stairs and out of the building, or exit the rear of the building, the doors to the rear of the chambers. In either case, once out of the building, walk a safe distance away from the building. I stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Old business, we have none this evening. All right, new business. DPN 2014-08-27, Hazaville Water Company.
This is a very minor approval requirement. I would have done an agent approval. However, the water company wanted to be sure there was nothing else they needed. They must do this to keep the well usable. The way that everything drains now, eventually the well has a higher chance of being polluted, and the state is mandating that they come into compliance.
One moment. I need to seat Liz Davis tonight for a member also.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Make a motion.
Yep. I'd like to make the motion to seat Liz Davis for the evening to be a voted member.
All in favor?
And Jane seconded it.
So Ginny, you've looked over this site plan, and you don't see any significant impact on any of the water courses or
No.
wetlands?
I'm familiar with the area and with that well field, and I went over there and looked, and I don't think that it would be a detriment, and I think it would be a safety factor that all the residents in that area would be thankful to have.
And that's it on the exhibit 3, correct? That's at pump station?
Yes,
That sits down the bottom of the hill there on Town Farm Road?
yes, it's down in a little gully.
And they're gonna, just replace that well?
No, they're not going to replace the well. They're going to replace the, wait a minute. They have to change a little bit of the drainage. Not the well, but the drainage. You have to be something like 200 feet away from the well for drainage. And because of all the road improvements and all that other stuff that was done recently, they're now less than 200 feet. So they have to go in and create a little more drainage area away from the existing well.
All right, now that drainage area that they're talking about, is that going to impact the drainage system that the town put in when they did the road?
No,
It's not going anywhere near there?
nope.
Okay.
Their representative and I met twice, and she's confident that it's a very minor project and that it's state mandated, and there would be no way for the town, this is a courtesy, there would be no way for the town to stop it if the state said it had to be done for health and safety reasons. I will, if you decide to allow me to agent approve it, I will make sure I'm there when they start and watch it and then check it out when it's finished. It's to their advantage. I mean, they're a water company.
Right. I'm just looking at, do you have Anything else that, any concerns that you might have with that? For drainage further, I guess, the town property? You know where the golf course or driving
Yeah.
range sledding is?
The well field is lower than the area where they teach golf on Town Farm. It's up higher, that area. So the drainage wouldn't affect them. The only thing it would affect is that swale that's, that swale with all the stone in it that was created. And I can't see that it would be a
And that's,
problem.
and that's drainage coming off of the street that's they're fixing?
No, there's drainage on their property.
The drainage from the street, though?
No, I don't know. Well, let's look at the plans. Ooh, sorry. Okay. There's Town Farm Road. And you can see the well radius limitation. And they're just going to put a 30-inch reinforced concrete flared end section into the existing 30-inch pipe. And as you can see, the small changes that they're making are more towards the Wallop School side than the Town Farm side. So it's not going to affect the Town Farm. It's not, it won't affect Wallop School because, again, it's lower
Right,
than the
correct.
street. So I can't see that it would be a problem.
Okay.
So it looks like they're just widening that drainage ditch that runs from the street down to their, I don't know what that
Yes.
house is, past that well house. So they're
Yes.
just widening that to make it the 120 foot instead of 110 feet.
They're just widening it to make it, the state requires them to be outside the 200-foot well radius, and it also, the distance of the 110 feet downstream. So they need to match those two, and the only way they can do it is these small changes that they are asking for.
Right, their discharge now has to be out.
Right,
They're
and,
just
and
discharging
they're
from it.
extending the berm, and I don't see anything about them grading up. It would be grading down.
It looks like they're extending the flared outfall of that one 30-inch pipe, but what about the twin outlets that are inside the radius just against the road? How come that one doesn't meet the same requirements as needing to be moved outside of the radius from the
Okay.
well?
Which one are we talking about?
If you look at the, right next to Town Farm Road, there's two flared outfalls into a scour hole that's not being changed. It's showing as existing, but
That's-
it's inside that same radius, whereas the other one, you can see where the existing one is, and they're extending it outside of that radius. But so why do those two at the top not fall under the same requirement?
Probably because they're coming from the road. That's probably not the town's, that's probably the town property and not the water company's property, I'm guessing. But it looks like it's quite close to the road. And it also looks like it would be more than 200 feet away from those twin flared into the scour hole, so I think.
That-
Well, no, the radius, you can see the radius line, it goes all the way around. It's clearly inside the radius of the 200-foot radius.
Yes,
If that drainage the drainage manhole cover is on Town Farm Road, correct?
correct.
All right. Now, for the drawing, it's showing that line, that pipe runs to that connect to the existing 30-inch reinforced concrete pipe. Right?
Yes.
And then they want to remove and relocate the 30-inch reinforced concrete flared end section. All right?
Yep.
And they're removing the existing performed scour hole. So they're going to take that out. And they're going to bring this 110 feet of 30-inch reinforced concrete culvert pipe down.
Correct.
And they're bringing that down to,
They're extending the earthen berm.
right, they're saying that, it looks like a foot, if that, from the elevation's showing, right?
Yes. I think they're just, it looks like they're moving the scour hole as well,
What?
because it says remove existing preformed scour hole. The 1, 2, third item down, and at the very bottom, it says preformed scour hole with intermediate riprap.
Yeah, they would remove that scour hole because they're taking the whole inlet and just basically moving it farther away, so it's outside of the radius.
Yes.
That's why my question is, there's two other flared outfalls which don't show where they're coming from. Just looks like they probably go under Town Farm Road, but they're within that radius. And I was just curious as to why those ones are not being affected. Is it?
That's a good question. I didn't think to ask that one. Is this something that you as a group would like to have before you?
Well, now Jane brought up this question, if they're doing that per the requirements of the state.
Yep.
My question is, this outfall, their scour hole here, is just going to riprap, correct? And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not seeing any, it's just draining off the street into that riprap.
Well, did you read their letter? Says the proposed work includes relocating the existing storm drainage outfall approximately 110 feet downstream in order to be outside the 200-foot well radius for the company's Town Farm well. The proposed work needs to be completed in order to meet the requirements of the State Department of Public Health. The second paragraph goes on to say technically the water companies fall under state purview. And they
And
could
that-
just,
And that discharge is still on water company property?
I'm not sure. I'm just saying, I don't know how many feet, I'll have to check that. There's always a right-of-way, and I truly didn't think to find out how much it was. And for that, Jane, thank you for catching that. I didn't see it. I'll have to find out.
So I guess we have probably a couple of questions that need to be answered, probably, right, before you can even do.
Yes.
I'm sure
Yes.
the board still has, the commission still has questions they want to like to ask too.
Okay. All right, so other than the twin flared ones that are coming in off of Town Farm, was there anything else that anybody had a question on?
What's that?
Just to clarify that.
Just put on, you gotta,
Jeannie, I have a question just to,
Okay.
I know it says 110 feet to 200, and you have one kept up top, and where the initial one was, is that the 110 they're talking about, halfway down, and then they're moving it the other 90 feet? So then you make the 200 from one end to the other? And that's why they don't have to move both ends?
Well, you know what? That's a possibility also. I was looking at the radius on the curve and looking at it that way. And it looked, of course, it can be deceiving, but it looked closer to the curve than it did to the Town Farm end. It's,
The other?
let's see. I don't see any scale on this. There should be. Oh, okay.
The new section of pipe is 110, that's the 110 feet. They're moving the existing flared outfall outside of the radius, as you were saying. That's the requirement, and so that's why I was bringing up a question. I'm guessing that these other two flared outfalls up here probably aren't Hazardville water pipes, which is why they're not concerned with them, but as far as, I guess that'd be more of a state perspective, is why they're requiring the Hazardville to move theirs outside of a 200-foot radius and not these other two. Maybe we'll see that come future, I don't know. But that's just, would be a point of clarification that I would want to know, is confirm that those two pipes are not Hazardville water outfalls.
I'll touch base with the rep that I've been working with tomorrow, and I can send you all an email. I'm not saying that any decisions can be made, but at least your question can be answered. That's a very good question.
if that scour hole is there and it's draining into just from what we're getting at, if that is true, then that would be drainage within that well area.
It looks, Joe, like it's fairly contained. It doesn't look like it's going to go past that dotted area. Again,
No, no.
if you have a 500-year flood, I'm sure it would just
No.
come right over.
Right, I'm just trying to understand, I think I'm trying to grasp why that pipe all of a sudden at the bottom of the lower end now has to be outside that 200 foot, where this one, which is probably a drain off of Town Farm Road, which drains onto their property.
Yeah. Well, that's what Jane said, and that's what I'm going to find out
And-
tomorrow.
Just touch base with them and find out really, what they're actually gonna do
Okay.
with that. So, we don't have to make a decision on that tonight
No.
because you still have questions to ask for that.
Yep. Be on the next agenda.
Public participation. We have no other business. We have no bond releases. Public participation. We have anybody in the audience? I don't see anybody in the audience tonight. Correspondence, Ginny.
Okay, in your packet, you have the Connecticut Federation of Planning and Zoning Agencies quarterly newsletter. I always find that interesting reading. You never know what kind of article you're going to find in there. Usually it doesn't pertain to us, but Attorney Stephen Burns is very good author, and he's enjoyable reading. You have hopefully you didn't get 2 sets like I did, but also the Habitat was in your packet from Kakiewicz. Kakiewicz is having its annual meeting. It's either November 1st or November 15th. When I get the firm date and information, I'll send it all to everyone on the email. Might be something that you would be interested in going to. And I think that's it. Does anybody have anything that came in to them that they'd like to share?
Jay, I had a question for you.
Yes.
Did the town purchase the Connecticut Water Company property? Are you aware of?
Last I knew, they were discussing it, but they couldn't get a consensus from the council. Some felt that it should go back on the tax records. Some felt that it should be filled in before the town took it, and some felt it was a great idea. I know Conservation Commission is pushing because it would be great passive recreation, and that there's an entryway off of one of the side streets that's narrow, and you could have a little parking there, and you could have people walking around and picnicking, and you wouldn't have to be up by the Enfield Street end. If the group has any feelings for or against, we can share them with the Conservation Commission, who can pass them along to the council for you.
I was just curious, and there's a lot of stagnant water in that area, and I don't know if they pump that off, and where they pump it to.
I don't know.
If it's just something we can keep an eye on. I know that I noticed it. All right. So, Commissioner correspondence. Anybody have anything? No questions. All right. Site visit updates.
I apologize for not having it in my report in your packets. As you know, we switched the packets from Thursday to Tuesday, and I didn't. We are short one member in our office, so I've been kind of doing double and triple duty. Plus, I didn't have any help putting the packet together. So, rather than missing getting the packet out to you, I thought I'd just verbally tell you. We had 7 wetlands permits that I signed off on. When I say wetlands permits, good rule of thumb to think about is any building permit application that touches the ground, like a shed, a deck, an addition to a house, a new building, a garage. They send it to wetlands. to make sure that it's not in wetlands. So most of the things I sign off on are not in wetlands, and I don't even count those. The 7 that I signed off on were ones that either were predate the wetlands regulations, which means they can have small sheds and small decks or make repairs to existing structures because they were built before there was wetlands regulations, and some of them have property that's totally in wetlands. Then there was another one, the property was abutting wetlands that were further away from it, but it wasn't 100 feet by any stretch of the imagination, so I signed off on that. I do put comments on my sign-off so that 5 years from now, someone looking at anything I've signed will know the basis of what I signed off on. I did get a complaint today. Conservation Commission, this is the second complaint I got. Conservation Commission felt the need to look at 12 Leary Road. It's a farm, and they said that the gentleman was digging a hole. So before I called him, I went to the street file in the building department. Jim Luzak, your former wetlands officer, signed off on a building that was in wetlands and quite close to an escarpment, but it's built. And the gentleman is just grading the front of the barn that he built. And there is no way that anything can be done and looked at because it was approved by your wetlands agent. So I will go back to my format of giving you my little spreadsheet. I went out, I took another look at the new house that's going up by Golden Irene's, and it's okay. The silt fence is okay. He's doing a good job. I also keep an eye on Post Road because that silt fence is getting a little iffy. It hasn't failed yet, but it's quite close to failing, so I've been keeping an eye on that. I've gone down a couple times. I would talk to somebody about it, but usually when I go by, they're not there. And I've been busy, you know, I've driven around. I did get a complaint about a playscape on Shaker Pines Lake. It's kind of a neighbor thing. And when I was a zoning enforcement officer and the building officials, and now me as the wetlands agent, I am not going to sign off on swing sets and sandboxes and that type of thing. And that's what it was. It was a one of those swing sets where the kids climb up and it's like a little fort. So that took a bit of my time. I know that I did take the initiative and talk to the president of the Shaker Pines Lake Association, and he was very sympathetic to the need for the swing set, and the Lake Association has no problems with it. So I've been chasing around things, but I've been busy.
All right. Approval of minutes for July 15, 2014.
I think that there's 2 minutes in there, in your packet. This was a mistake that was supposed to be corrected.
Okay.
But there should be 2 minutes in there. You discussed it at the last meeting, but
July 1st, we have minutes for that, and July 15th, correct?
yes.
Okay. So, a motion for the approval of the minutes for those two.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from Tuesday, July 1st, 2014, and the minutes for, can we do both at once?
Unless
Yeah.
unless you have some comments on either one of them.
And the minutes for Tuesday, July 15th, 2014?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Wetlands agent report.
I just gave you
Just
my
gave it to
wetlands.
us.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, that's fine. All right, executive session, we have none at this time. New applications to be accepted.
We have one that you've heard before on Varno Lane. A few months ago, the gentleman came in because in your zoning regs, in your wetlands regs, I've been wearing two hats, so I apologize. In your wetlands regs, it says that when you approve something and someone else buys it, they have to come and request permission to assume the approval. And when the gentleman was here, he was asked if there would be any change. He was asked when his attorney was here if there would be any changes to the original approval, and he said no, it was strict adherence. And now he wants to build a deck, so he needs to come back before you for the deck. So he will be on the next agenda.
Is that why we don't have the application here today?
Yes. I had been told that he wanted to modify the deck. The department secretary had talked to him, and he said he was coming in to change the deck. And since that's such a small lot, and there is a big impact with wetlands over there with the flood, I think it's a 500-year flood runoff, I thought that was something you should look at. But I didn't want to give it to you until the plans were finalized. And tonight he was mistaken. He thought he was on the agenda, and I asked him if he was going to change the plans, and he said no, there was no change to the plans. So all that information will be in your next packet.
All right, Ginny, so we don't have the application in front of us.
No.
So we can't accept it, correct? We don't have an application.
Well, you can accept it as PZC does in this case. PZC accepts and schedules their applications without seeing them. Rather than hold the man up, I would assume that since it's we can discuss this further after the meeting, but I'm going to put it on the agenda. If you choose to just accept it and not rule on it, that's fine too. That would be your call as a board.
Well, all right, my question is this. If we accept the application, right, if it's filled out correctly, and he's paid all the fees for it, which we don't know if he has or not. I don't know if he has or not.
The fees have been paid. The map might not be to the caliber that that Joe is requesting. I'm not sure. If you want to come up with me after the meeting, I can show you what I have.
Anybody else have any comments on this?
So if we accept the application and the date of the accepted application would be this evening, the period to count down to having this be closed will begin this evening. Would there be a problem with us or even the applicant having this period begin this evening without us having the plans?
It's not a public hearing. It's totally your decision. I don't want to push you into having a meeting that you don't feel comfortable with. I can get you all the things, and he can be on the second meeting if you feel more comfortable with that.
I personally feel more comfortable having his application.
All right.
And having everything before we accept something that we don't have.
All right.
Just be fair to anybody else that comes down the road,
Yep,
you know.
yep. Not a problem.
All right. So I need a motion on the table to not accept it?
No,
Oh,
it's not on your,
All
it's
right.
not on your radar.
okay. All right. So I need a motion for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.